Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marques White.
And my name is Fight Mode Nick Cavalli.
And we welcome you to the Wrevolution. This is, of course, your weekend wrap-up. And tonight we're going to be discussing Friday Night Smackdown, Monday Night Raw, and then a few of the new stuff from this past weekend and last week. Going to be getting into a lot of stuff happened apparently this last weekend. A lot of drama and some big bad news if you're a fan of the XFL. So
and of course, remember, tomorrow is the big day. We'll be recording the first elimination round of the World Wrestling Classic. So if somehow this is up before then, get your votes in.
Absolutely. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump into Friday Night Smackdown. We had a not so interesting show, I guess is the best way to put it. Not a lot happened, but the biggest thing was the Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt segment. Yes, so Bray Wyatt called out Braun Strowman's challenging for the Universal Championship, and he basically just kind of said that Braun, he's old. Braun betrayed him. He left the Wyatt family back in the day. And, clearly he's learned his lesson, right? So, no. Braun needs to do the right thing. And Braun, of course, I love this, replies, Bray, I'm willing to let you in. And then he does the, bye, Bray. Bye, see you next week. So I thought that was fantastic. What was your thoughts on this segment?
I am so excited, and I know we've talked about the long-term versus short-term view of this. I think there's not a better opponent in the books for Braun Strowman than Bray Wyatt. Braun has finally been able to develop his own character to the point where it's like, okay, he's his own guy. This isn't just big sweaty dude who used to be in the Wyatt family who beats up on jobbers. Like, he has a character, he's developed a personality. I think it's to the point now where you can go, now it's your turn to take him on. So I'm excited for it. I think the segment went well, but of course there's some long-term ramifications, and I'm going to go ahead and let you get into that first.
Yeah, my biggest issue with this is that it's just too soon. Braun just got the title. And whether you're looking at Braun as a transitional champion and you put him over, or you put Bray, over Braun Strowman, or you get rid of all the goodwill and hard work that you did restoring Bray's character and put Braun Strowman over. It's just, I don't see either guy coming out of this it's too soon. I feel like if you wanted to do Braun versus Bray, maybe a little bit later down the line, have Braun defend the title maybe once or twice, then you get into Bray. Then it doesn't look so much as if Braun is a transitional champion. But right now it just looks like you only put the belt on Braun Strowman because Roman wasn't there. And if you have him lose to Bray, then that just affirms our suspicions even more. Yeah. So that's my biggest issue there. I do think if you have Bray lose in this scenario, it doesn't hurt him as much as Braun losing, because if you do it right, you can portray it as less damaging to Bray's character. You just have to book it right. It has to be maybe some type of weird scenario. Maybe Braun plays mind games with Bray, I'd love to see something like that. After all, he's the first opponent that Bray's fought, if I'm correct, that was in the Wyatt family. I know Daniel Bryan was in the Wyatt family, but no, the first real member.
Week tease with Luke Harper.
Yeah. So, this is kind of interesting to see how these mind games are going to play out, because, the whole Fiend's character, Bray's whole thing is being able to play mind games and tricks on his opponent, and that probably isn't going to work on someone like Braun Strowman.
Yeah, I don't particularly see Braun Strowman getting terrified at the sight of the Fiend. I'll tell you what. The issue is, whoever wins this, no one's going to be happy. Wyatt fans are not going to be happy if Braun wins this because it makes Wyatt look weak. And Braun's fans are not going to be happy if Bray wins because it means Braun's a transitional champion. The worst thing you could possibly do is meld the two together, have him beat Bray to cement him as a powerhouse, and then as soon as Roman comes back, have him drop the title to Roman, because that makes him not only a transitional champion, but a transitional champion that beat the Fiend.
Yeah, then that just makes Bray look even worse if he loses to Braun.
Look like Goldberg.
Exactly, yeah. So hopefully that's not what they do. Fingers crossed. But going to talk about the opening segment for SmackDown, which also involves Braun Strowman, which was Shinsuke Nakamura came out and he had some words for Braun Strowman. He said that, pulling a kind of a little bit from Aleister Black's gimmick a little bit, said that he was here to knock on Braun Strowman's door. He knocked.
I think you're talking about the wrong guy.
Exactly, yeah. So, but it was funny. It was nice to see Shinsuke, kind of be able to talk a little bit, not just be all Sami Zayn, the mouthpiece for Shinsuke. And, he got a nice opportunity, so I appreciated that. I thought it was nice to see Shinsuke back in the main event.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely on that. Obviously, I wish that I wish they'd just drop this whole artist collective thing and let Shinsuke do his thing. I mean, honestly, it's still not too far gone that if they bring back the King of Strong style gimmick that people think that it's corny. Like, I'm to the point where, look, it's getting there. You need to either bring it back or you need to figure something else out, because at this point Shinsuke is starting to fade into irrelevance in WWE, and that is the last thing I want to see.
See, I actually have a different mindset of this on you. I think it's too little too late. I think Shinsuke is like whatever mystique, whatever magic he had coming from NXT to the main roster, that's gone. Like, he had people singing his theme song. He was the most over person on his debut, like, coming up. Fans would go nuts. And obviously, with the COVID-19 crisis, there's no one in the crowd. But before that, like, the dude gets, like, basically no reaction. It's kind of sad. And it's really, with anyone that's in that Sami Zayn stable, none of them really get any reaction anymore. And I feel like it's been too long of this weird no speak of the English gimmick that they've been doing, which is like borders on racist almost. But this is too little too late. I feel like you can't, if you were to try to bring it back now, I don't feel like people would care. It's kind of like what they've been doing with Asuka, like, and I'll get to that when we cover Raw, but you go to push Shinsuke, and then you don't quite go all the way. You back off then, and then it's like he falls by the wayside, either becomes a jobber or he's just irrelevant. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want to push him again, but not that much. No, we're not going to give him the big one. We're not going to go all in. So it's like they want to dip their toe in the Shinsuke Nakamura pool, but they don't want to just jump in. And I don't know why.
Well, I think a portion of the problem is, maybe I'm wrong, but Vince seems to be a guy who prefers champions speak English.
Yeah, and that's, I think, again, this is why I say it like borders on racist, is that Shinsuke doesn't, he can speak English. It's not great English, but he can speak English. Like, they had him doing this thing where he just doesn't talk at all, and it's like, no, the guy can speak English, and if it bugs you that bad, give the guy a manager. If it's that not big of an issue for you. Zayn. Yeah, someone that's not Sami. Dear God, please. But I don't think with something like Shinsuke, his whole gimmick, the way he resonates with the fans, isn't based on cutting promos. It's just based on the character, the style, like how electric he is, his entrance, what he does in the ring. That's what personifies Shinsuke Nakamura. It's, you come to watch Shinsuke because you want to see what he's going to do in the ring. You're just there to see that flamboyant style. You're not here to hear what Shinsuke is talking about. No one ever cared about Shinsuke in New Japan because of his amazing promo work. I promise you that. No, it's because he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. So I just feel like WWE has completely mishandled Shinsuke from day one since leaving NXT. And I don't know if there's anything they can do to bring his character back, to resurrect him. sort of having him just go on a massive winning streak and like beat people like Roman Reigns and like, I don't know, Goldberg, then there you go. So we're gonna get into the women's tag team championship match. So right away, WWE, you were right. We were both wrong, and I guess in a sense, because you thought it was gonna be at a pay-per-view. I didn't think it was gonna be this soon. But the SmackDown after WrestleMania, the titles are being defended. Hey, at least they care, right? Does that show that they care?
I guess.
Yeah. Too bad for the Kabuki Warriors, who would lose this match. So Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss do retain. So no flip-flopping of the titles. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I don't really know what this means for the Kabuki Warriors in the future. And we see that going forward on Raw. But this was a good match, though. I mean, it was competitive. It was just the fact that we just saw it at Mania. So it's like, I don't need to see this match again. There was an Elias appearance. Cool. Not that I don't love Elias, but it's just, I don't know, it's not as cool seeing Elias come out and perform with no one in the crowd. Like, I feel like that's part of his...
it's kind of goofy.
Yeah, it's a little weird. We then saw Dolph Ziggler defeat Take in a one-on-one match. So this wasn't a great match. Again, it's what I feared is that they're still doing the Dolph Ziggler and Sonya Deville gimmick. Why? Like,
it's so forced.
It really is. Like, they have no chemistry together either.
Nope.
And you can't do the, oh, me and Sonya are like, we're lovers the whole time thing for obvious reasons. So it's just...
Nah, I don't know what you're talking about.
So it's just kind of this like weird, like, oh, I guess because we worked together that one time to stop Otis and Mandy Rose being a thing, now we're just like a stable now. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's weird. It's cringy.
You really underestimate Vince McMahon's ability to write someone's sexuality. I mean, he could just be like, next week, hey, Sonya, you're bisexual now. Congratulations. She'd be like, what?
I feel like for multiple reasons that wouldn't fly, especially not today. So...
But I could still see Vince trying it.
Oh, I could definitely see him trying, but I feel like that's one of those things where, like, as soon as he says it, one of the writers or, like, one of his, like, elites walk up to him and tap him on the shoulder and say, Vince, unless you want a lawsuit, no. So, we got a Miz and Morrison episode of The Dirt Sheet, but that didn't last long as the Usos came out, and then so did the New Day. They had exchanged words. This wasn't great. I mean, again, this just shows how weak the SmackDown tag division is. It's the same teams every week. So,
if only WWE had an elite tag team that they were able to use on a week-by-week basis and didn't release.
And well, we see two other tag teams get used as, first of all, we got the Lucha House Party back on SmackDown, and then the SmackDown television debut of NXT's own The Forgotten Sons. So they're on SmackDown now.
Why? Okay. You know what? I thought that I was going to be able to just calmly relax during this episode, you know. I got a lot going on. Like, I wanted to just get... Why? Of all of the tag teams you could bring up, why the Forgotten Sons?
I don't have an issue with the Forgotten Sons.
Oh, I do. They're trash.
I don't have an issue with them. I think they're fine. It's not one of those, like, cringy gimmicks where every time I see them, I'm like, oh, that's bad. Like, it's just kind of like... Oh, they're burly, bearded guys who represent America. Like, that's...
The gimmick is, hey, we're all American service members, except that one guy, he never served. Let's pretend that didn't happen. And somehow we're heels.
Well, that's... Well,
like, it makes no sense. It's stupid. The whole thing is stupid.
Well, I mean, again, I like the idea of the fact that the whole thing is, look, at one point or another, we were all in stables. We're all kind of like we all kind of got forgotten about. Like, that's the whole deal. It's like we kind of got left by the wayside. We're the guys that didn't get pushed, the guys that didn't get, the big opportunities. So they're the forgotten sons of WWE. So I think it's a fine gimmick. I don't think any of them are particularly awful in the ring. In fact, I think, at least in terms of like Wesley Blake, I think he's quite good. So I don't have an issue with their tag team, and I don't have an issue with them being on SmackDown, especially considering the situation. It sucks that now we're starting to see more and more NXT talent get plucked just because you need them for the main roster. Hopefully, it would be a lot easier if WWE would just come out and say that and just say, hey, we're using NXT talent because we're short on staff, instead of just, well, they're on Raw or SmackDown now. And then what's going to happen is that if we go back to the way things are in the future, then what? Do they just get sent back down to NXT, or do they just get shelved? Like,
we'll never know
what happens here. So
I've never liked the, hey, we have nothing else to do, so create a tag team gimmick. And if I did, I'd rather the Social Outcasts than this, because at least they were funny. And but all three of them could wrestle.
But this isn't just hey, we're just three random guys thrown together. Like, these are all tag team specialists, guys that were in a tag team, and you put them together as a tag team. And again, the whole stable gimmick being hey, we were members of a tag team that kind of got left by the wayside. I think it makes sense, and I don't have an issue with it.
Okay. I mean, you do you, man. This gimmick is garbage. It really is.
I don't see what the problem is. Would you rather... You'd rather have the Death Triangle, right? Like, if this was AEW doing this, I'm sure you'd love this. Because that's just, three other guys, again, just thrown together. And what's their reason for being a tag team? We're all heel. Like, they have no reason to be... At least these guys have a reason to be a tag team. The Death Triangle is, we're heel, so we're a tag team.
So, yeah.
I didn't hear that. What was that?
The Forgotten Sons, it was, hey, we were the weak link in each of our tag teams, so here we are being the weak link in a 3-man tag team together.
No, like, that's the idea is that, okay, like, Forgotten no more. Like, we're going to come together, we're going to work our asses off, and we're going to show everyone why you don't forget about us, why we're going to be the head of the tag team. Like, it's a classic redemption, like, storyline. I don't know what's so difficult about that.
Did it right. Except the difference is no one cares. No one cares.
Well, they haven't, again, first of all, they haven't been used very often on NXT TV, mainly because they were just getting together. And you're not going to shove them down our throats and push them right away, which is the way I think you should do wrestling. You don't just shove a tag team down our throats and push them out the gate. Like, you'd rather them go on like a massive win streak instead of doing things correctly and have them get built on a week-to-week basis.
Never said that, but okay.
I mean, it's your standard mantra. It's what you believe in. So
here, let's just put words in my mouth now too.
Yeah, let's just shove tag teams and shove people down our throats on a week-to-week basis. Because we all know that's what Mr. Cavalli stands for, right? You and your love of John Cena and Kenny Omega. That's what you'd love, right? So it's not surprising to me.
If you're not talented enough to be in the main event, you probably don't belong. Forgotten Sons, I'm looking at you. You're not talented. Go home. Get off my screen.
Yeah, it really is funny to me just how much you and Vince McMahon have in common. It's probably the same thing Vince told Bray Wyatt. It's probably the same thing that Vince McMahon told Bray before he had him go out and get squashed by Goldberg. Hey kid, I don't think you're talented enough, so Goldberg's holding the title. Good luck out there, by the way. So we then get
was stupid enough to call these guys up, so I think nothing like him. I'd have fired them out of my company the second that they came up with an insolent idea like that.
Well, that's the funny thing is that you think they came up with the idea. We all know that wasn't probably their gimmick.
I'd have fired the writers who came up with that idea. That's so stupid.
And thank God you have no power.
Look, the Forgotten Sons, the League of Nations, and the Social Outcasts. The same 3 tag team ideas with a slightly different backstory. All of them are, we have nothing else for you guys to do, here's a tag team.
The difference between the first 2 or the last 2 you mentioned and the first one is that the other 2 were just treated as jokes and used as jobbers. The other one was actually given, the opportunity to go out and thrive and win matches, and they were treated way more seriously. No one's out there laughing at the Forgotten Sons. Does anyone care about the Social Outcasts or the B Team or any of those random stables that just get thrown together? But then there are, again, the instances where I just feel like guys just give up and they just go, well, this is where I'm at. Oh, well. And they just collect a paycheck every week. And those are the guys that I think when you talk about people that need to be thrown off our TV, that's why I get so past it when I look at guys like the Forgotten Sons. You can see they're at least putting everything into their gimmick. They're giving it their shot and they're trying to do everything they can on a weekly basis. Then I look at guys that you can tell have just given up. And it's just like, well, you're the ones that need to be off my TV. You're the guys that are just collecting a paycheck, safe and comfortable in the position that you're in with no aspirations to try to move up at all. You need to be gone. You need to be off my television. So, next on our on SmackDown were Bayley and Sasha Banks. They were out for a promo in the ring, and this was all right. Bayley, it's always nice when Bayley gets to talk a little bit, although sometimes she can come off as kind of cringe. Banks did sound pretty good in this promo, and then the most interesting part of this was the fact that Bayley just kind of threw Sasha Banks here to Tamina. She was just like, "Oh yeah, you can have your match, Tamina, but if you can beat Sasha Banks," and then Banks is just like, "Huh?" So I liked that. They're really this. You want to talk about slow builds? This is definitely a slow build for the Bayley Sasha feud that everyone's just been steaming, dying to have for I don't even know how many years. WWE just continues to tease it. They even like halfway gave it to us a couple years ago, but they never like went full on into it. Yeah. So I'm interested to see, because when this thing blows up, it's going to be huge. So definitely looking forward to that. We got a squash match, Sheamus versus Cal Bloom. This was horrible, as all squash matches are. And then the last thing I want to talk about on SmackDown, which is like the weirdest thing I thought, which was this whole thing with Jeff Hardy. Like they're doing this like promo thing. It's like a career retrospective type deal. And it's just like, I don't know if he's getting pushed or if he's like ready to hang up the boots. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting mixed signals here. It could just be me. I don't know what you got from that.
You'll never know. You will never know.
Yeah.
You'll find out when the story concludes.
Yeah. So that's all for SmackDown. SmackDown wasn't a great show. I'm not even gonna do a match of the night or anything because
nope,
it just wasn't worth it. I will say it was SmackDown's getting better. Like it's not where it's and hopefully they'll continue to progress to the point where I go, all right, SmackDown, you're worth fully investing in. But as of now, they're still not there. They're not even in the same atmosphere of being there yet. Next, we're going to move on to Monday Night Raw. And yes, this was I believe the first live show for WWE. WWE has gone back to being live, no longer taped, to mixed reaction from wrestlers and fans across the industry. You had people like Ryback speaking up saying that everyone needs to oppose this and get out there and speak about it because this is just wrong in so many ways. You're putting everybody at risk, yada yada. So just real quick, I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I mean, personally, I think it's important that we protect protect our wrestlers, protect our entertainers, and protect the staff at World Wrestling Entertainment. However, if you look at it from this perspective, they're going to be getting together anyways to do these tapings. As long as they continue to follow social distancing outside of the ring and at home and stay in quarantine and stay safe, I think the best bet is to allow them to go live if the wrestlers feel comfortable. I would leave it up to the locker room, to be honest.
And that's exactly how I feel about it, is the fact that I feel like this is another one of those instances where it's, the anti-WWE crowd was just loud and mighty on social media this past week. Ryback's the head of that crowd. Everyone just coming out and speaking out, oh, this is horrible. How dare you have live shows, yada, yada. But it's like, again, like you said, they're going to have to get together anyway. No one's speaking out about All Elite Wrestling or any of the other wrestling shows about getting together and performing their shows every week. So
exactly,
it just seems like it's just another reason to just hate on WWE it's lame, and guys. It really is.
Coming from the head of Team Hate WWE. This is stupid.
Yeah, there are so many things to get up.
Ryback and I are co-captains.
Yeah, there are so many things to get upset about and hate on WWE for. This isn't one of them. This is just lame. If you're getting upset and you're hating on WWE for this, come on. You got better things to do on your time. I guess people are just bored, and I guess rightfully so with everything that's happening, but come on, spend your time on something else. But let's get into Monday Night Raw here. So, Drew McIntyre opened the show. He immediately got challenged by Andrade, and I thought this was really cool. They took things back to their rivalry in NXT. McIntyre talking about how Andrade did beat him for the NXT championship and actually injured him in the process. So he said, you want a champion versus champion match tonight? You got it. So I'm never going to get upset at an opportunity to see Andrade versus Drew McIntyre continue their amazing feud from NXT. So,
despite me thinking that Andrade has no point in being on my TV since he just got suspended and then immediately got hurt afterwards, then didn't want to show up at Mania, and all of a sudden is here a week later.
Yeah. Obviously, those things aside, still, what did you think? What do you think?
I think it looks great for Drew McIntyre. He is a fighting champion. He's and I expect that out of him. Much the same way I expect that out of Braun Strowman. Much the same I expect that out of Jon Moxley. Those three guys.
We should expect it out of every world champion.
Well, we should. Looking at you, Adam Cole. But we, right now we're in an era where we have a lot of fighting champions in world champions. Around professional wrestling, not just in the big two, but in Impact. Tessa Blanchard is like the fighting champion. So, I'm interested to see where this goes, but honestly, it looks great for McIntyre to not step down from a big challenge like this, and of course it sets up for a pretty decent match.
Absolutely. So, next, this is what I was talking about earlier when I say Asuka and the way she gets pushed confuses me. I referenced it when we were talking about SmackDown. But, yeah, Asuka is automatically given an opportunity to qualify for the Money in the Bank against Ruby Riott, and she won her match. This, by the way, was a pretty alright match, but it was pretty much all Asuka. Like, you knew Asuka was winning this match, and she looked good doing it. So this is what I mean when I say, WWE, do you love or hate Asuka? Like, what are you doing with her? Because it's like, you push her one week, and then the other week you're like, forget that you were pushing her. Like, I don't know what you're doing here. And I guess, by the way, I don't know what the Kabuki Warriors just aren't a thing anymore. I don't know what this means for them because they weren't together tonight. And especially what you did with Kairi Sane earlier. And actually, I'll just jump right into it and explain. Kairi Sane got, squashed tonight. She was in a match with Nia Jax, who's making her return, and she got absolutely brutalized. So not good looks for the former women's tag team champion, but I guess good for the returning Nia Jax. Although, it is nice to see Nia back in the ring. I wish you wouldn't squash people I like, please. I don't know. It's like, again, this kind of shows why you couldn't never take the Kabuki Warriors as seriously as you wanted, because you push Asuka, but then you have Kairi go and get jobbed to Nia Jax. So it's like, again, I don't know what that, if you're going to push them as a team down into the line, what does that mean for them as a stable? Or if you're going to break them up, then what does that mean for Kairi Sane as a singles competitor? Because she looks very bad right now. And even Asuka, again, she doesn't look great either, because I don't know if I'm supposed to care or not, because you're giving me mixed signals, WWE.
Yeah, I mean, look, between the two of them, again, two examples of people that the main roster have absolutely failed after great time in NXT.
Absolutely. Next, we get MVP announcing the Money in the Bank qualifying matches. Said there's going to be 3 of them next week. It's going to be Rey Mysterio versus Murphy. Buddy. It's going to be Aleister Black versus Austin Theory. And then Apollo Crews versus one Montel Vontavious Porter. So, real quick, anybody remember when MVP retired from ring competition?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to that?
So, here's the other thing. Is there any chance that MVP wins that? Like, you just told us Apollo Crews is in the Money in the Bank match.
I'll laugh if it happens. Like, I will come on here the very next day and just full on, like, laugh for, like, 20 minutes straight if that happens. But, no, it's...
Yeah, you want to see me go back into fight mode. That'll be a good way for me to get there. I mean, I know I had my rant today that may or may not make this video, or may just be a separate video watching me mentally break down over how much I hate Vince McMahon. But by God, you want to see me get upset. See MVP, who's retired, go over Apollo.
And I mean, I like MVP. He's not bad in the ring. He's just old. And he definitely, at this point in his career, should be doing the service, should be doing the job for Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews, who's never been pushed by WWE on the main roster ever, never given the opportunity. This, I think, would be the biggest opportunity he's had on the main roster, is competing. Could you imagine seeing Apollo Crews, which, by the way, it's going to be, I'm just going to, spoiler alert, it's going to be Aleister Black. It's going to be Aleister Black. Like, spoiler alert, like... does anybody believe?
Black, or it's gonna be somebody from SmackDown.
Yeah, I just feel like with the
it's not gonna be Apollo. It's not gonna be any of the guys in the first 2 matches.
Yeah, it's not gonna be Ray or Murphy
Austin Theory is not getting into the match. Although that match I look forward to. That's
gonna be a great match.
That's gonna be a fantastic.
It's gonna be great,
match.
But spoiler alert: Aleister Black's winning.
Aleister Black wins. Exactly. So I don't know what to tell you.
As much as I'd love to see, I don't hate either way if you have Aleister or Austin Theory go over. I would like to see Austin Theory get involved, but I mean, I guess Aleister's owed it at this point to get pushed. But...
Let's put it this way. Whoever wins the second match on Raw immediately becomes one of my 2 favorites to win the match.
Exactly. But
even if it's Austin Theory, if you put Austin Theory over Aleister Black, congrats, kid. You're winning the Money in the Bank.
No, would I love someone like Apollo to win the Money in the Bank? Yes, because I feel like that's what Money in the Bank was created for. It's supposed to be giving guys like Apollo an opportunity that they would have otherwise never gotten before. So I would love the idea of putting Apollo over in Money in the Bank. I'd love to see Apollo have a heel run, to be honest with you. I'd love to see Apollo come out and cut some heel promos. We've seen what angry Apollo looks like. He's no longer coming out and smiling every week, so at least that's gone.
Titus worldwide.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'd love to see someone like Apollo get this, but no, it's gonna be Aleister Black. And speaking of Aleister Black, he had a really good match with Oni
Yes.
Lorcan tonight. I like this. It was your I don't want to say 30-minute classic because it wasn't that good and it didn't quite go 30 minutes, but it was still a really good match. Both men looked really strong. By the way, I guess Oni's just on Raw now. Again, this is one of those things where they're just throwing NXT guys on the main roster because they need talent. But
we don't know who's on what roster until
I mean, at this point,
maybe
can you even separate NXT from WWE at this point? I mean, Charlotte's your NXT Women's Champion. You got NXT competitors popping up on Raw and SmackDown every week. At this point, they're the same brand. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I suppose.
But, yeah, Black does pick up the win here in this match, as he should. I love you, Oni, but you're a tag team guy. Alistair's been getting the rub every week, so you knew Alistair was going to pick up the victory here. But still a nice competitive match between those two. I liked it. We had Becky cut a promo. This was kind of lame. I didn't like it because she's already like talking about Shayna Baszler some more. I mean, you beat her. You beat her already. Like,
congrats.
Who cares? She doesn't have an opportunity right now to unless she wins Money in the Bank, you're not going to be seeing Shayna anytime soon. So just get her out of your mind. Like, move the F on. Stop reminding everybody that you did beat Shayna Baszler at Mania, because I'd love to forget that.
I beat the cage fighter. Yeah, no kidding, Becky. You have a truck. Congrats.
Yes.
Speaking of Shayna Baszler and Money in the Bank.
Yeah, speaking of the cage fighters, Shayna Baszler versus Sarah Logan in essentially a squash match. So before the match, I thought WWE missed a really good opportunity here. They asked Baszler about Ronda Rousey's recent comments calling pro wrestling fake fighting, and she provided no answer. So WWE, you missed an opportunity here to have Baszler just really, if Rousey really is coming back, you missed a golden opportunity. Like, it was right there. Even if she's not coming back, to push Shayna as that badass number one girl on Raw, you missed your opportunity. And even another way to look at it though is, should WWE kayfabe wise be addressing stuff like this? I get that they've always torn the line, and breaking the fourth wall is kind of their thing, especially with people like John Cena, but especially nowadays, when you go so out of your way to present professional wrestling as legitimate, as a real sport, especially with the way the matches are nowadays, everyone's so much more athletic than anyone even came close to being back in the day. You have guys like Johnny Gargano and Ciampa putting on legitimate fights, hour-long fights, and then you have to kind of break the fourth wall in this manner and even address the fact that Rousey was calling WWE fake fighting. I don't know if that pushes the industry forward in the way you think it does. I think it's weird. You shouldn't go that route.
It's just wrong. Look, and I'm biased, whatever. You look at Wednesday nights and what Dynamite's been doing with Jake Hager. Hager's not coming out and saying, this is fake fighting, this is stupid, whoever wins is just predetermined or whatever. Hager's coming out and he's like, I've been training for this. I want to be AEW World Champion. This is a goal of mine. I put everything into this. You don't address it. You never, ever, ever, ever address it. You can allude to it when Bray Wyatt talks about things like pushes and stuff like that. But you never, ever, ever, ever address dead on that this is fake. We know it's fake. We watch to get our mind out somewhere else. We don't watch because we think it's a sport. But when you sit there and look us in the face and talk about it being fake, it makes me not care.
Yeah, that'd be and this is what I say to a lot of people that are non-wrestling fans that, always critique, well, why do you want to watch that fake fighting stuff? I always say it's the same thing with watching any television show or movie. None of that's real either. But you're never going to see Iron Man come out and be like, hey, Chris, that's a good shot. Let's move on. Like, it's like you're never going to see that. Like, so why should you do that with pro wrestling? Why should, like, I don't like that. I don't like, you can always allude to and break the fourth wall. I'm okay with stuff like that. Like, again, like what Bray Wyatt does with what John Cena's done a couple of times, like when he made the heel turn joke. Like, I thought that was funny. But when you're just flat out addressing a statement in which Rousey was blatantly calling wrestling fake, that's just something you shouldn't do. But,
I would have buried that comment 10 miles deep. And you know what? I know we're going to get into this a little bit more in the news, but if this is somehow a work by WWE, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, if this is a work, I mean, the only positive is that you are building heat for Ronda Rousey, but you can build heat in a different way. And I guess the one thing I can look at this is that you can look at it in the sense that when you read, and we'll get really more in depth with Rousey's comments, but when you read what she said, I guess the one bright side is that she never outright came out and said that matches are predetermined or anything like that. She just alluded to the fact that people like don't go 100% in the fights. Like, they want to make sure egos are protected and stuff like that. So I guess that's the only saving grace in that sense, but it's not much to go off of. It's just kind of like WWE left themselves that much room to weasel out of it. Yeah. If people like you and me are like, whoa, no, they can go, but wait, we didn't exactly pull back the curtain. We just kind of gave you a little peek. So
right.
That's the only saving grace, if there even is one. But Shayna Baszler destroys Sarah Logan in this match, like absolutely brutalizes
breaks her arm.
Yeah, like snaps her arm, essentially. That was brutal, by the way. So the ref just throws the match out. Like, nope, that's it. So Shayna is going on to Money in the Bank, as everybody expected. Next match, Austin Theory versus Akira Tozawa. This wasn't great. This match was given no time.
4 squash matches in a row, pretty much.
Yeah. 100%. This match wasn't given much time. Theory wins with the TKO, which apparently is now named the Austin Theory Launch, the ATL. So, cool. But yeah, Theory picks up the victory via pinfall. Moving on, we get a Rey Mysterio interview backstage about Money in the Bank. Says that, been looking back through my career. 2010 stands out because I won my second championship. And then Kane, of course, would go on to cash in just 2 months later. And then he says that, I understand better than anyone how dangerous that this match is, how dangerous that contract can be. And I want to be Mr. Money in the Bank. It's not going to be you, Ray. But I can't wait to see you in this match type because, oh my God, Rey Mysterio and a Money in the Bank match, phenomenal. What'd you say?
All of the flippy stuff.
Oh, yeah. Seth Rollins cut a 3-sentence promo, and I quote, "Everyone needs something to have faith in. I want you to know that I'm still here for you. Your Messiah has truly risen one day after Easter." My goodness, man.
Well,
have we reached full grade blasphemy yet?
I was waiting on a lightning strike. Maybe that was just, a me thing. I was just waiting on the bolt of lightning to hit him and fry him where he stood.
Seth to spontaneously combust.
Yeah, this gimmick is really good.
Yes, it is.
When I talk about the stupid, goofy wrestling stuff and I talk about I don't need the gimmicks to exist, it's true. But when I look at some of the gimmicks and I go, this is awful, like Shinsuke liking to hit people in the nuts, then I look at a gimmick like Seth Rollins thinking he's Jesus and going, the amnesia this man must have is high tier, but this is a fantastic gimmick.
And again, this is what I talk about when I say like people making the most out of their opportunities. I guarantee you, like months ago when WWE walked up to Seth and was like, "Hey, you're gonna be Jesus Christ." What? Like he could have very
you're gonna be Christ.
Like he could have very easily gone the super silly route, coming out in a robe and everything. He could have like just put no effort into it, but the fact that he's every week like putting the most into this really made this the best thing to see on Monday nights every week. That just shows you the passion of one Seth Rollins, and love or hate the guy. And a lot of people hate the guy. He's still one of the best in the company.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He's a fantastic wrestler. He's a fantastic performer. He's a fantastic entertainer. He's an asshole, but he's a fantastic entertainer. There's a lot of those in this world.
I was going to say, ironically, a lot of the best guys in the business are a bunch of a-holes. Hulk Hogan's the first to come to mind.
Uh-huh.
And as much as I like John Cena and as he comes across as a very great guy, a lot of people have spoken out over the years about how it's all an act and how John backstage is completely different. Whether you give any credence to that, I personally don't. But, that's the kind of stuff that comes out over the years that a lot of the top guys in the business, you don't get to that spot without a little bit of backstage politicking. So I guess there's a flip side to the coin, and it is what it is. But that's the business. To quote a lot of the old heads, that's the business. So
yeah.
Angel Garza versus Tahuti Miles. So getting to see a little more of our boy Tahuti, which again, I like Tahuti Miles. Fortunately, this wasn't a good showcase for him because he didn't do much. This was a squash match. Again, Garza won this pretty easily. He hit this wing clipper for the victory. And then after, all of the Selena Vega stable, which consists of Angel, Theory, and Andrade, all beat down on poor little Tahuti Miles. So
see, this is possibly the worst part about that whole angle. What did you just say? All of the Zelina Vega stable. Of the 4 people in that stable, the one name that comes to mind is always gonna be Zelina Vega. And she's the manager. That's a problem.
Well, is it? I don't know.
But it's true.
It's the same thing with like any of the Paul Heyman guys, though. The first name you think of is Paul Heyman. So, while I do agree that I've been outspoken that is a problem. Hence my issue currently with the Lance Archer gimmick in AEW, because I feel like we care more, at least I care more about Jake the Snake than I do Lance Archer. So no, I definitely agree. It is an issue for the fact that she is the primary component in all this. However, still the fact that all 3 of them are fantastic in the ring. All 3 of them normally put on great matches. Tonight wasn't their best showcase, but minus Andrade, who had a really good match with Drew McIntyre. But yeah, I don't even know if I would go though as far as to say she is more over than all of them. Again, when as much as we like to make fun of Latino Hour, when you had guys like Andrade and Angel Garza coming up and doing their thing, I thought that was more focused on them. The only reason I think she's become more prevalent is because now you do have the Street Profits and Bianca Belair. So now they're just trying to do this like stable versus stable thing, and it's somehow Austin Theory got lumped in there. I don't know how, but because if we're talking about it, it should be a 3-person versus 3-person, because there's the Street Profits are 2 plus Bianca. So you should just shove Austin Theory out.
Yeah. It should have just been something like Austin Theory, it was your fault we lost this match. I don't want you anywhere near my stable, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really hurt him because no one's going to take credence in what she says,
Well,
so
it should have
that's
just,
fine.
I mean,
He
if
goes
anything, it
back
should have
to
just been
NXT,
it should have just been Andrade wasn't here, Angel wasn't here. All right, Austin, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Go back to NXT. Like, you don't even have to acknowledge it. Just literally just be like, he was there just because Andrade wasn't. And then he just goes back to NXT. Why you are continuing, which, again, I know IRL why that's happening, but stop. Stop. We did, again, I talked about the Nia Jax and Kairi Sane. That wasn't great. We got Charlotte cutting a promo, giving a history lesson. Basically, she just basically gave us a synopsis of her career. Like, talked about all the accomplishments that she had. But her biggest thing was that she basically ripped on Rhea Ripley. She said that, unlike herself, Rhea lacked humility. Said that, unlike that, she called out Flair that she made the ballsy move to throw out the gauntlet to Charlotte Flair because she wanted to be the queen. Unfortunately, though, to quote Meek Mill, there are levels to this. So, she said she's going to teach a lesson to Io Shirai, and starting with lesson 1, everyone bows to the queen. So again, I like this. I like the promo work from Charlotte. She's sounding less and less robotic on a weekly basis. And again, like it or not, she again gives legitimacy to the NXT title. With her wearing the belt, it's someone who okay, every match is going to be like an amazing 5-star, like it's going to be a fight, and you're no longer going into the match with like, she's just going to lose or whatever, which, I mean, you've never really had that issue for the NXT championship, maybe sometimes with the main roster championships, but just the idea, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Charlotte versus Io Shirai, as much as we like to joke about Charlotte always getting the push, you genuinely don't know what's going to happen with this match. So I'm excited. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, I agree with you entirely. When it comes down to it, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Io Shirai presents a little bit of a different style that Charlotte is going to have to come up against. Charlotte looks better on the mic than she has in quite a long time. And I'm just excited to see where this progresses to. Still think she doesn't deserve the title.
Next, we got Bobby Lashley versus... Hey, he's back on Raw. No, wait. Jose.
No.
I love it.
Jose. No, wait. Jose. Oh, my God.
Yes, No Way Jose versus Bob. Yeah, this wasn't good. As much we like to joke. No, this was not a good match. Lashley squashed No Way Jose. And there was one point, again, they're kind of building to this, is that Lana almost cost Lashley the match. He was in firm control, and then Lana gets distracted. He turns around and tells her to shut her mouth. After that, No Way Jose almost scored a pinball victory via roll-up, but Lashley kicks out, hits the spear, and then wins the match. And then at the end, he gets his hand raised by Lana at the top of the ramp, though he didn't seem to enjoy that very much. So they're again building for this whole Lana and Bob breakup. I wish they just get it over with. This isn't a storyline that I need to see get built up.
This together in the first place.
Yeah, I don't need a slow build for this. Just have Bob come out and be like, yeah, we're done, and then just end it. Please. We get another message from the Monday Night Messiah. He says, to all the non-believers, you have left me no alternative, because tonight I stomp out all doubt. We then we then get the Viking Raiders versus Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. And say what you want about them being a tag team, this was a really good match. And this is doing it right because they didn't win. And I know people are going to say, wait, what? Yeah, they aren't just getting slammed down our throats. They're not winning every match.
We talked about the right way to build a new tag team that does not necessarily have tag chemistry. It's perfect. Congratulations, WWE. Someone from your company is watching our channel and doing their job.
Exactly. I mean, when you have a tag team like the Viking Raiders, who are former Monday Night Raw tag champions, very dominant in their own right, you should not be having them lose to a brand new tag team like Cedric and Ricochet. So it makes perfect sense that they would win this match. Because go ahead.
Let's see if WWE really is watching our channel. Please change their name back to the War Raiders. Please.
No, we know that's not going to happen. Vincent, for some reason, thinks war is just bad. It's one of those, like, weird things he says. It's the same reason why you can't call the titles belts, because you're dishonoring the championship.
Yep.
And why you can't call you have to call hospitals local medical facilities.
Facilities, yeah. God, I can't even say facilities. This is what happens when I go on a rant. Takes all the energy out of me, and then I can't even speak English by the end of this.
Next, we get a backstage interview from the Street Profits, who introduced Bianca Belair. This was cool. There's nothing really of significant value from this, but it's just nice to see. I just love seeing these three on my television. I just thought that was cool. And then finally, we get the Drew McIntyre versus Andrade main event, non-title, of course. And like I said before, this was a really good match. As expected, both men are phenomenal competitors. Drew McIntyre would go ahead to win the match with the Claymore kick. But of course, after he got attacked by Andrade, and then Seth Rollins runs in and he attacks Drew McIntyre and then hits 2 curb stomps. And that's how Monday Night Raw goes off the air.
Well, I guess we're going to stomp out doubt.
I
get it. Raw wasn't bad. SmackDown wasn't bad. They were both not bad. They existed.
My thing with this is, what has Rollins done to get thrown into the title picture? He lost to Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens a bunch of times and then lose to him at Mania.
At Mania, yeah. If anyone should be getting opportunities, where's Kevin Owens? I don't understand how this works. And forgive me, but what happened? Unless I missed something, aren't automatic rematch clauses still a thing? So shouldn't we be getting Brock McIntyre too at Money in the Bank?
Yes, we should, as long as Brock is still going to be under contract.
Yeah, so this doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why Seth is being shoved into this feud with Drew McIntyre. Am I going to like seeing it? It's going to be cool because I enjoy watching both men, but it's one of those things where I just go, yeah, this does need to be a thing. So, if I had to pick a match of the night, it would either be the last match or it would be the Alistair Oney Lorcan match. So
yeah, I'll take Alistair and Oney Lorcan.
Yeah, it would either be that one or the last match. I think I would probably have to go with Drew McIntyre Andrade, just because I like the continuation from the NXT feud. I thought there was a lot going into this match, and it was a really good match. Great way to end the show. MVP, my guy,
Zelina Vega.
Yikes.
For getting all 3 of her stable members over tonight, despite her being the most popular member of her stable, apparently.
I don't know where to go with this, because part of me wants to be wants to laugh and just pick Seth Rollins because all the blasphemy. But no, I think probably gonna have to go with Drew McIntyre as my MVP. I liked the way he opened the show tonight, and I liked his match. His match was the match of the night. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the new world champion Drew McIntyre as my MVP of the show tonight. Congratulations to you, McIntyre, winning a lot of things lately. So, that's the end of our Raw review for tonight. That's the end of our segment of covering the previous 2 shows from this past weekend. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to some news type stuff. And boy, oh boy, do we have news. I said let's just go ahead and hit them with a big one out the gate.
Well, WWE professional wrestler, oh God, sorry. Vince might have had a heart attack if I'd have said that. Sports entertainers are considered essential employees by the state of Florida. This is an interesting one amongst, quite a few news articles that we have for you. This stems quite possibly from the fact that Vince McMahon's wife, Linda McMahon, runs the largest Republican super PAC in the state of Florida. Florida's governor is a Republican. So, follow the money, usually.
Isn't she, correct me if I'm wrong,
that both ways.
Isn't she also, didn't Trump appoint her as, the head of small businesses?
I believe she stepped down. I have no idea. For all I know, Linda McMahon is still in a drugged coma somewhere. But, yeah, so Vince McMahon has swindled his way, as far as I can tell. I mean, I'm not a journalist, so God, I could be wrong, but has, it appears, swindled his way to his workers being essential in the state of Florida because they provide life-saving entertainment, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I don't get how they managed to pull that one off. But I mean, if it means that we're gonna start to get some more people coming back to the shows on a week in and week basis, if it makes putting on the shows easier for WWE, then I guess I can't really complain here. As long as it leads to better content on a weekly basis, then you got no complaints from me. Is it odd? Oh, yeah. Is it suspect? Uh-huh. But, whatever. Something that kind of is important if you're a big money and stocks guy, and especially with this revealing, is that the XFL is officially filed for bankruptcy. Yes, we got the news over the weekend that the XFL laid off all its employees, that they had no plans to return next year or in 2021. And just when we thought there was maybe a little bit of hope that, maybe they could come back, nope. It's official. The XFL has officially filed for bankruptcy. And in doing so, we found out that this isn't just Vince McMahon's little side project, but actually the WWE does actually hold ownership in the XFL. So I don't know if we were necessarily lied to, but definitely in the way it was portrayed and the two being completely separate, no, WWE definitely had an interest in the XFL, money-wise especially. So this hurts everyone that was involved, especially Vince and World Wrestling Entertainment. And I'm interested to see where their stocks go following this, because this can't be good for them. And this, as a football guy, this sucks for me because I don't know if any of you actually watched the NFL. It was really good. It was very entertaining. They put, unlike what we often see from Raw and Smackdown, they put a lot of effort into this. So it's sad to see it go. A lot of people out of work. A lot of people now need to find new jobs. So this sucks for those guys, especially the athletes who were using this kind of as their second chance for the guys that couldn't make it in the NFL, or even the college athletes that saw this as their way to skip the NCAA, have a path to being a professional athlete without having to go through the draft process in the NFL, maybe using this as their first steps into the NFL. That's now gone now. And again, it's just another sign that spring, that football, that second alternative to the NFL, it hasn't been successful. And this, of course, is of no fault of the XFL, because no one could have predicted this. And I mean, especially when you look at the contract deals they made, the main reason that they can't continue, that they had to file for bankruptcy, is that they were losing millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in TV deals because they weren't airing on a weekly basis. So they weren't prepared as a startup company. They were not prepared to lose that much money in a short period of time. So it wasn't that they didn't have money saved up so they could continue on the next year. It's that they lost so much money like that, and it's just you can't make that up. So,
and it's that elusive spring football league. I feel like I need it's like being a WWE fan. I need to stop investing myself in these. Like, I was all in on the AAF, and they folded, and then I was all in on the XFL, and they went bankrupt. And now it's like, I can't like anything. Like, I'm a Lions fan. Like, give me something. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the NFL, but by God, I'm a Lions fan. Give me something to watch.
And again, this is of no fault of the XFL. It sucks because now seeing this go down, I don't think we're gonna get another company try to do something like this for a long time, if ever. I mean, this may have been the nail in the coffin for spring football or for NFL alternatives when it comes to professional football. That might have just ended that, and it's sad to see because, again, it was very enjoyable. It's always nice to have competition, although I don't know if you can call the XFL necessarily competition to the NFL, but it's always nice to have alternatives. But there's always the CFL.
The funny thing is, I like Canadian football, and I won't even sit here and say that. The one thing that you did mention about that is it does provide. It's not so much competition in a head-to-head set as it is the AAF and the XFL both provided us with things that the NFL doesn't, that will push the NFL forward. The AAF with the Sky Judge, which is something that, and challenging pass interference, which is something, one of the two the NFL has already brought in, and the other one is expected to be brought in as soon as the referees sign their new CBA.
The Skycam from the original XFL that was incorporated by the NFL.
Right, and then the new XFL, the booth review idea is being talked about, as is the idea of on-field reporters. Of course, maybe that one's not quite as close to happening.
Yeah, I think even as a wrestling fan, I think that's going full WWE. Like, imagine you're a quarterback just throwing an interception. Hey, Drew Brees, how do you feel?
Well, I feel awful. You get out of my face.
I mean, it'd be entertaining.
Yeah. So the next news article actually just came out a little bit ago. So those of you who think that I've been sitting here checking my phone, you're completely right. But that's because I'm still getting news articles time to time as well. So recently, yesterday, we had the qualifiers for the women's Money in the Bank match. And we have a very, very not so happy person. Liv Morgan, who has been pretty well pushed over the last month or two, was not even included in any of the matchups. Now, of course, this could result from the fact that she wasn't going to win them, nor was she going to be placed in the Money in the Bank match, and they didn't want her to look weak. But someone who has been pushed like that definitely belonged in a spot. And, I mean, the way they've been pushing her lately, the way she's been developing, I would have been happy to see her in the Money in the Bank ladder match. She tweeted out, I wanted it in a continuous stream until she ran out of characters.
Give me what I want. Give me what I want.
I'm sorry to see that Liv Morgan wasn't included in this year's Women's Money in the Bank matchup, but, she's still got a really good career ahead of her. Additionally, one tiny story, people are starting to speculate that there's growing animosity between WWE and Bray Wyatt because of his connection with Matt Hardy his friendship with Matt Hardy. Something to keep an eye on is how that progresses, most importantly, because Bray Wyatt's contract ends in September. So WWE's got to do something to keep him around, and being pissed at him because he has a friend is not going to help.
So I have the same response to both the Liv Morgan and the WWE Bray Wyatt storyline, and it's get over yourself. If for Liv Morgan, get over yourself. Like, I understand that you've been getting pushed and you've been getting, which I guess pushed isn't even the right word because you've been losing. But, I mean, you won a couple matches against Lana. Fantastic job. But, I mean, come on. You didn't stand a chance in hell. And if you're for WWE, stop being so effing petty. If you let someone like Bray Wyatt, this gold that you've created with the Fiend character, if you let that walk out the door, or if you, even worse, if you push him out the door because you're so, which honestly it feels like, scared of All Elite Wrestling and what they could potentially do, if that's honestly where you're at right now, then all I gotta say, WWE, get over yourself. Seriously.
Yep.
So
now,
what I...
The thing that, you know, of course, my big old AEW ego, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I can imagine two things happening if he were to come over. A, going with Broken Matt, which would be the obvious. Joining the Dark Order, working with Brody Lee. Both are great options. So it's not like he doesn't have options to go elsewhere if you're just going to be a complete petty company when it comes to allowing your wrestlers to have relationships with their friends. Now, of course, it hasn't always been that way. There are members of the WWE roster who are in relationships with, are married to members of AEW, so it's just rumors.
Yes.
And it's not very well-founded rumors, but they're rumors.
Also, just real quick note on the Brody Lee thing. He did actually do an interview, I believe it was last week, where he came out and said that when he first got put in the storyline with Bray Wyatt, he never really liked Bray. He kind of grew to respect him and like him as the years went on. But yeah, no, him and Luke aren't exactly best of friends. So maybe that wouldn't happen if Bray somehow wound up in AEW.
Imagine it being one of those things where because Bray was, well, see, but AEW is not as petty, but I could see it going the other way and them being like, you were the brainchild of WWE. We're going to put you in Dark Order and make you lose a bunch and let Luke Harper just beat up on you.
Yeah, I could see it going the other way where it's like, okay, Bray was the mastermind, the head of the cult in WWE. So now,
and
like, so here in AEW, here, give Bray one of the Dark Order masks and just let Luke Harper boss him around.
But yeah, so again, those are only rumors, and of course, they're not super well founded. Most rumors aren't, but you know, I'm grasping at straws here. COVID's happening. There's not a ton going on. I mean, we just reported on the XFL, for God's sake.
But
so,
you know what's not a rumor? That is Undertaker discussing why he switched gimmicks, retirement, and matches he's got left. So this was from a video interview with 9 Line Apparel. I'm, of course, reading this article from the Sportster. And Taker sat down, and he addressed most of these things. So he gave his thoughts on the Boneyard match first, said that he really enjoyed the experience, and he said that WWE is going to do more of them, but that it only works with the right characters. So that's all good news, that we're not going to see like a Undertaker versus, I don't even know, like a Bobby Roode in a Boneyard match. Like, no, we're not going to see anything like that. He did say that it's not necessarily it's the best idea for the stars who focus on just the athletic in-ring style to get over. He said that during the match, he actually wrestled for the first time with a new gimmick and noted that he'd been toying with the idea of switching things up for a while. He explained, "I'd kind of been feeling it for a while. I know I don't have a lot of matches left, so you always sort of risk, well, if you do this big change again, you're not really out there. And when AJ threw that first stone and made this personal, then I made it a no-brainer. I couldn't say that mainstream Undertaker and being able to respond and deal with the things that he was saying in that character." He also clarified the unholy trinity thing we talked about before. So this is apparently the new gimmick that he's calling the Undertaker now. It's not the Dead Man. It's not the American Badass. It's not even Mark Calloway. It's a combination of all three known as the unholy trinity. So that's what he meant when he said he was bringing that to WrestleMania. He said, "I put them all together and my brain was working that way. It was the unification of all these three entities into one person. That's where that came from." So I like that. I think that's a perfect explanation for the Unholy Trinity. I think that's a great name for the new gimmick of The Undertaker. It's taking from all three. You saw that in the match. You saw the Mark Calloway, that kind of old vet came back to just
Come on, boy.
kick some ass one more time. We saw the American Badass, on the biker with the cool rock music. And then, of course, we saw a little bit of the Dead Man, coming back from the dead, raising fire. Like, that's all amazing stuff. He then said that he switched from The Undertaker to this new gimmick when AJ got real. He said that when AJ threw that first stone, it made it a no-brainer. Now, he did say that putting the pieces of the Boneyard match was unplanned, and it became such due to the coronavirus. And he also said that it wasn't initially supposed to be a Boneyard match. He said that if it was up to me and it was me booking this idea, it would have been a Buried Alive match. But AJ knew nothing about a Buried Alive match. So he goes out there and calls it a Boneyard match. So it's a Boneyard match now. So that's how that works. So
oh God, AJ.
So yeah, we had to come up with that. He then said, he addresses the elephant in the room. Is the Undertaker retiring? And to the guy during the interview, he said, "Look, we'll see. I love you, man, but I can't give that information up tonight. I'll tell you this, watch the documentary and you might have a better perspective." So, great things there from Mark Calloway, from The Undertaker. My favorite thing about that is I love the whole thing with AJ. Like, well, if it was up to me, it'd be a Buried Alive match, but that kid doesn't know anything about it. He dumbass goes out there and calls it a Boneyard match. So, I thought that was great.
So we had to figure out what the hell that was.
I love that. I thought that was fantastic. What do you think?
I think that was a really interesting interview. And, of course, Undertaker has been coming out and doing more personal things recently. So we'll see. Obviously, the documentary will tell all on whether or not he will be returning to WWE or not. But I think if not, again, this was the perfect way for him to go out.
Absolutely.
So, some more interesting news coming out this week. Speaking of WWE superstars who are upset with the company, they finally have been released. Ladies and gentlemen, the Revival has been released. Dash and Dawson are free. They immediately dropped a shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees that was a picture of the two of them. And the WWE, I believe it was the Raw Tag Team title belts, are like full-on Thanos snapped off their shoulders with the hashtag FTR, of course, meaning farewell, the Revival, not that other thing. That definitely did not come from the guys in AEW. I mean, it's obvious. They're signing in AEW. The best part about this, both of the guys currently are undergoing minor injuries, so they are out of action for a little while. But because they were released and the exact wording of their release was their immediate departure from the company, they have been reportedly released from their non-compete clauses as well. So they will be eligible to sign with whomever they want immediately. And, I mean, they've been teasing AEW forever.
So this is smart on the part of WWE in terms of the fact that you're not, even if you are being petty, you're not coming off as petty. If it's true and they are allowed to compete, they're voided from the non-compete clause. Yeah, you're saying, you know what? Yeah, I'll just let these guys go out compete. If they want to go and be a part of the competition, that's fine. You know, we're WWE. Like, we have the mindset that, you know, we're going to crush them. So that's smart if you're WWE and you're letting them do out. Obviously, from a long-term business standpoint, it's probably not the smartest idea because you're letting two of the best guys in your company walk out the door and go directly to your competition. Yeah. But again, if you're a WWE and you have the mindset that, you know, we're not using these guys anyway, and they just want out so badly, if they have the mindset they don't want to be here, then, you know, what are we to do to stop them? So it's nice to see them, you know, be allowed to go and compete, and it's great for the Revival to, or whatever they're going to be called now. Speculation has it that they're going to be called the Shatter Machine, but it's nice to see these guys out in the indie market. Hopefully they do land, if not in AEW, and, you know, another top company, and I just want to see these guys have lots of success in the future.
So two things. First of all, it was additionally good for WWE to release them immediately because this stands well from a client perspective. If you're signing with WWE, you want to sign with a company that you know that if something goes wrong at the end of days, they're not going to sit there and just hold you on your contract like they did with Moxley or like they did with Matt Hardy, where with these guys, we don't have any plans for you, we'll just let you go. So that could be smart for them. Additionally, I'm super excited to see these guys wherever they land, but come on. The Revival versus the Bucks.
I thought about this too.
It books itself.
While you were saying that, it kind of popped in my head too. This idea is also the fact that we've heard this from Matt Hardy and from Chris Jericho and guys like that, and the fact that WWE is often reluctant to let go of guys that they actually care about. So this also could be a sign of WWE just giving the middle finger to the Revival and saying, you know, we're not going to try to fight to make you stay here because we don't really care about you. You're not a Matt Hardy. You're not a Chris Jericho or John Moxley where we love you to that point. We trust you or we want you to stay here. You want to go so badly? Fine, get out. So that could also be knowing the pettiness of WWE and Vince McMahon. That could be another way to look at this. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Finally, I do propose that their new tag team name is The Renewal.
That would be fantastic. I'd love that. But some more news is what all this, you know, the people coming back out of retirement. We had Daniel Bryan a couple years ago. We had Edge, who we never thought we'd see in a ring again after 9 long years. Obviously, there's been speculation. Edge's best friend. Could one Christian come out of retirement?
Christian?
Yes, just like his best friend, Edge. Well, he kind of shut this idea down hard in a recent interview from Booker T. Comicbook.com reports that Christian, in this interview, said, it's just one of those things, right? It's a completely different injury. I'm pretty content with all that I've accomplished in WWE. I pretty much accomplished everything I ever wanted to, except main event WrestleMania. And let's be honest, how many people actually get a chance to do that? I'm 46 years old and I've had some concussion issues. It's just a matter of, I don't see it happening. I'm medically disqualified. Not sure how I would ever get cleared. So, I take this with a grain of salt for this instance. Edge said almost verbatim the exact same thing in a lot of interviews, especially when Daniel Bryan came back. That was the first thing people asked, is Edge going to come back? And he literally said almost the same thing. Like, no, it's a different injury. I've done everything in this business. Like, there's no reason for me to. I'm medically disqualified, yada, yada, yada. Literally the same thing. So, if there's one thing we have learned, if Daniel Bryan and Edge coming back has proved to us, it's the age-old saying in pro wrestling, especially in WWE, never say never. So, we could very well, maybe not soon, but we could very well be seeing Christian in a WWE ring sometime in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be excited to see that, especially if he gets to come back and spend some time with Edge, or if we finally get the Edge versus Christian angle. That would be very interesting. But of course, safety is the number one thing for any guy who's in the industry. So if the injuries truly are to that point, then Christian, I hope that you do the smart thing for yourself and for your family. We do get some interesting news. Speaking of guys out of retirement, big old Bill Goldie Goldberg.
Bill.
So people have been wondering why Goldberg dropped the title to Braun Strowman. Well, it's actually pretty simple. Goldberg came back in an agreement to work 2 dates. WrestleMania and the Saudi show. And at WrestleMania, he was to drop the belt to Roman, and that was it. He's going to ride back off into the sunset. Problem is, Roman wasn't available. So rather than Goldberg signing on for literally one more date or doing anything else, it was just, yeah, I don't want to do anymore. Can I be done? And they said, sure, we'll put the belt on Braun.
Yeah, so this actually kind of tags off another article that I read, which was that Goldberg talking about his infamous match with The Undertaker. And he essentially said that, I was reluctant to come back at all. I put on a horrible match against The Undertaker. I admit it. I embarrassed myself. I damn near almost ruined my legacy. I, by all means, should not have came back. So I was reluctant at first to come back, but I felt like I had something to prove, that I wanted to come back and, prove I could still be the Goldberg of old, that I could still come back and perform the way that I performed. But that match with Taker was just a one-off, but he didn't want to overdo it. So from that perspective, I guess it makes sense why he'd be like, yep, I want to come back, right the wrongs from the Taker match, do 2 dates, get the hell out of here. But it also frustrates me because it just makes me even more angry seeing that he even won the title in the first place. Yeah. Because if your whole idea is, I struggle with the idea of coming back, I put on a terrible match against The Undertaker, I shouldn't be back long term, I should only work a few dates, then you should have not even won the title in the first place. You should have just came back, lost to Bray, put over the new kid, and then be on about your merry day, right off into the sunset, like you said you wanted to. Or even if you want to come back for another match at Mania, like against somebody else, that's fine, but you should not have won that match against Bray. That's why it just makes it even more frustrating. Even if when I wanted to give Goldberg that little bit of credit for him saying, maybe I shouldn't come back and work long term, you ruined it the moment you started backstage politicking about wanting, it's what the character would do. And that actually leads into the next article from Sportster.com, where Goldberg, it's suggested that there's heat backstage actually for Goldberg, that this actually stems from recent behind-the-scenes dealings with Vince and his former opponent. Apparently, Goldberg was not a popular man heading into WrestleMania, and the main reason was his backstage politicking with that match, stating that, he actually lobbied to defeat Wyatt, who was originally supposed to win that match, to WWE's credit, but out of fear that a loss would damage his image, Bill talked them into giving him creative control, arguing that younger fans would want to see their superhero defeat the monster. So Goldberg saw himself as the man who would save the day. After Goldberg pulled politics for a new finish, the story continues that Bray agreed to lose, which carried favorable weight backstage. He dropped the title, and Goldberg went on to be a hated man. The problem was that the opponent was supposed to be Roman Reigns, and because Goldberg is also rumored to have been unwilling to extend his contract to get that match in with Reigns after Reigns pulled out of Mania, WWE had to put the title on Braun Strowman. So you see, it's just multiple cause and effects things.
Yep.
But this doesn't happen if Goldberg doesn't politic and pull for the title to get put on him. It didn't make him. It didn't make him favorable with the boys backstage. It didn't make him favorable with the fans or even with corporate. And again, this is good because at least, to WWE's credit, like at least it shows they did have the right idea going into this. Just good old Billy Bill was like, no, it's for the character. And it's what we talked about earlier, like these old heads, these guys, not even just old heads, but the guys that get to the top of the business, they often see themselves as the good guys, the guys that need to get pushed. forever.
Right.
It's what was talked about with John Cena, the superhero gimmick. Who performs that more than good old Super Cena himself? So it's like, this is just like an in-depth look into the psyche of the way these guys think. It truly is just, they're egomaniacs. They really are.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely on that. And like I was going to say, the thing that makes me most upset is, as a guy who likes Braun Strowman in the ring, this is kind of upsetting. Because if you don't put the title on Goldberg, Bray goes into WrestleMania against Roman. Roman pulls out. We get a Bray versus Braun match, probably, because that probably would have been their backup anyways. Bray wins that match. And we don't have to worry about Braun being a transitional champion for his first title reign. Now, I have to worry about, is he going to be a transitional champion? Is he going to go and squash on people who deserve to be champion right now? So it puts us in a whole mess, and it's all because Goldberg could not put his ego aside.
Yeah, this really messed up things for WWE long term, because you almost see that they had this all planned out going into Mania. Like, despite the way we ripped on them going forward, that, they had no idea what they were doing. Like, this shows they actually did have a little bit of a plan. Like, Bray is going to beat Goldberg. It's going to be Bray versus Roman Reigns. But then, again, obviously, Goldberg goes over and Roman Reigns goes down. And it just puts this whole mess in, because now it almost seems like Bray's going to win this match against Braun, because Bray was never supposed to lose the title in the first place. So it almost just seems like they're going to right the wrong that Goldberg created, and they're going to put the title back on Bray to kind of make themselves feel better for what happened previously.
And then we get the Bray versus Roman match anyways that WWE allegedly didn't want.
Exactly. So there's just so much here. And all I can say to this just boils down to one thing. Screw Bill Goldberg. Like, screw this guy. Like, I don't normally call out guys like this, but what an asshole. Like, what just a genuine piece of crap egomaniac. Yeah. If you honestly feel like it's for the character, it's what kids would want, then you need to pull your head out of your ass, because you're not living in reality, bud. This is 2020. Yeah, you came back, you got your little last ride, and everybody went nuts and excited for Goldberg because he was back, but it happened. That should have been it. Right off in the sunset. You should have never came back for the Taker match. Should have never been back, period. Like, just go away. You're done.
But you know why we loved that run for Goldberg? Because he beat Brock.
Well, it wasn't even just that.
It was someone who could hand Brock's ass to him.
And it wasn't just that. It was the fact that for once for the first time, really, we got to see Goldberg done right in WWE. We got to see the Goldberg character. I mean, we got a little bit of it with Goldberg's original stint, but for a year, basically, we got to see, or however how many months it was, between Survivor Series and WrestleMania, we got to see the Goldberg from WCW who would destroy people in under a minute come out on our Monday Night Raw and do that in matches on a near week-to-week basis, mind you. So it was like, wow, that's a throwback. That's a nostalgia back to the glory days of wrestling. It was cool to see, but yeah, it ran its course come WrestleMania, so everybody was like, all right, we're cool to be done with that once WrestleMania is over. And it was like, that was fun. That was a nice trip down memory lane, but now it's over. That's where it should have ended.
So, in addition to that piece of news, wow, I'm so great at transitions, aren't I? Like, they're so smooth. All Elite Wrestling came out today and announced that Double or Nothing will be taking place on its original scheduled date. However, they are not entirely certain yet as to whether or not fans will be allowed in the arena. It is scheduled to take place in the late May, around, late May, May 23rd, I believe, was the scheduled air date from Las Vegas, Nevada. However, it is unknown as to whether or not fans or non-essential staff will be allowed in the arena, or if it'll even be taped live.
So if I'm being honest, looking at this from a realistic point of view, there's not going to be fans. Every other sport is already talking about far past May. I'm talking like in the fall, not having fans in the stands. College football has already came out and said if they're coming back in the fall, there's not going to be fans in the stands. The NBA already stated when they come back, they're debating on if they're going to have fans in the stands or not. And that's far past when college football and even the NFL are coming out and saying we're probably not going to have fans. So, like, if all these major industries are like, yeah, no, we can't have fans, I just don't see professional wrestling being the one standout. Like, yeah, we're gonna bring it back. It's not a good look for the industry as a whole, because then we're the only industry kind of going against the grain, which normally we do tend to do that, but in this case, it's not a good thing. Like, we don't want to be the outlier here.
So the one thing that Tony Khan did say is it's going to come down to what the guidelines are, what's set out, and what the best practices are considered at the time. Both on a federal and a state level. He also said that, of course, he is very worried about the health and safety of his fans and his workers. So he'll be working with local people in the city of Las Vegas around that time to determine what is best practice. They said that it is still unknown. It will not be rescheduled, though, so Double or Nothing will be taking place in late May, I believe, May 23rd. Let me check that. May 23rd, yeah.
Okay.
So it is still scheduled to be May 23rd. Whether it'll take place in Vegas or not, whether it'll take place in front of fans or not, whether it'll be pay-per-view or not, I suppose, all are still up to debate and are still to be found out. But it is official. It will be taking place on its scheduled date.
All right. So that was our last news article for the night. So unless you have anything else, I'm going to go ahead and close out the show.
I think we've talked more than enough about Ronda Rousey's dumbass tonight. For those of you who apparently live under a rock but watch us, Ronda Rousey came out and said that WWE fans are effing fake and fickle and they're awful and ungrateful and that she doesn't respect the way that we respond. So quite frankly, I don't want to give you the time of day on my show, on our show.
Yeah.
So, piss off, will you?
Yes. So with that being said, that was our weekend wrap-up for this week. I'm not even going to attempt to tell you what number episode it is without making an ass out of myself. However, I am going to tell you that this is going to be coming out. It is Tuesday night we're recording this, so this will be up tomorrow, which is Wednesday, later in the night. And speaking of Wednesday, we're going to be recording the next edition, week 2, or I guess you could call this really week 1 of the World Wrestling Classic. So you should expect that up on your YouTube feed coming at you probably Thursday night. Of course, Thursday we will then be recording the Wednesday Night Wars, and then that will be up Friday night. So you got some amazing days of Wrevolution content coming at you in the next few days, so just stay tuned for that. And how do you make sure you're up to date on all your Wrevolution stuff? That's because you're going to be subscribed and you're going to ring the notification bell down at the top. And while the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast is only available on the YouTubes due to the current situation that we are in, if you go ahead and follow us on the Spotify, the iTunes, the Google Play Podcast, and of course, as always, the Podbean, as well as anywhere else you can find amazing pro wrestling podcasts like ourselves, then when this whole mess is over, we'll be right back at you in audio podcast format. Of course, social media links are down in the description below. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and of course on personal Instagram and stuff like that to make sure you stay tuned and up to date on all new content coming out for the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast. Of course, we also have the polls for the World Wrestling Classic. We're going to be doing that on a weekly basis. So if you want to get involved, make sure your input is taken into consideration for the World Wrestling Classic and who will be advancing each week. Then make sure you vote in those polls. We also have the bracket available for download as well. So, without further ado, unless you've got anything else to say, my name is Marcus White, live from Studio 6.
I am your world champion, Fight Mode Nick Cavalli from the spare bedroom.
And this has been the Wrevolution Pro Wrestling Podcast, and as always, we invite you to join the Revolution.
The Revolution.
Have a fantastic night, guys.